Hey, what's up, everybody? It is almost the middle of June, which means summer is fast approaching. And let's be honest, it's basically here, right? Once it hits June, it's summer season. There's something special about summer. Ever since we were kids and, school gets out and you got the whole summer, 3 months, or probably 2.5 months, but essentially 3 months of fucking freedom. Ever since those days, we have always loved summer. Okay, I know people will argue that fall is their favorite season now, especially horror fans, and I won't argue with that, but there is something special about summertime. And even with that, all the great things that come with summer, there have been some excellent, horrific summer movies that are absolutely scary and absolutely classic. And I want to give you guys my top 10, with an honorable mention, my top 10 favorite summer horror movies. So grab your swim trunks, get your camping gear, and let's go.
If you like horror, hit that notification bell, smash that like button, and push that subscribe button now.
What's the boogeyman?
Hello,
Welcome to my nightmare. We want the man who did this.
Welcome to Nick Push's Horror Channel.
So this is my list. Goes without saying, this is my personal preference, my personal opinion. I want to hear your guys' list down below. So comment below, meet me down in the comments, and tell me your favorite summer horror movie or favorite summer horror movies. Just because this is my list doesn't mean it's correct, but I definitely want to hear your guys' lists in the comments. We got a lot of newer movies and a lot of older movies. I'm liking the mix here as I was making this. So this is going to be a lot of fun. I am not going to deep dive into all these movies. There may be a few spoilers here and there, but I'm going to try and keep this relatively spoiler-free, especially with a few of these movies that maybe have some twists or turns in there that I would like people to experience for the first time by themselves. So let's get to our honorable mention right away. My honorable... Wow. I'm keeping that in there because that is fucking ridiculous, and my channel's a little ridiculous. My honorable mention, I did it, is Midsommar from 2019, I believe. This is an Ari Aster movie. Obviously, it is very controversial as far as people either love it or people hate it. I'm kind of in the I like it category, but that depends on the day. This is a very slow burn, and you guys know me if you're a returning viewer here. You know me, I love slow burns. But this is just kind of like a different type of slow burn, where you're just uncomfortable the whole time. It takes place in, God, I can't even remember, but it takes place in Europe. And essentially this group of kids goes to this place in Europe where it's 24 hours of daylight. And it's basically, there's this cult and things like that. And it's just, you're very uncomfortable and at the edge of your seat for the whole time. And it's a very well-made movie. Sometimes I feel like it's not for me. Sometimes I really enjoy it. But I would encourage you, if you haven't seen Midsommar from 2019, to go check that out. Because it's got a lot of critical acclaim. But let's get right into the list now. My number 10 is going to be Sleepaway Camp from 1983, I believe. Speaking of twists, I'm not going to ruin... There's a twist at the end of this movie. I'm not going to ruin it. But this came out, a few years after Friday the 13th, which we'll obviously be talking about. But a few years after Friday the 13th, and it's one of the few well-made camp movies besides the Friday the 13th franchise. It like I said, there's a big twist at the end that you don't want to miss, and it's just a really good early 80s slasher movie. That's exactly what it is. It doesn't try to be something it's not, and it's a classic movie for a reason. The twist is obviously, like I said, classic, and there's just a lot to like with this movie. I don't want to get into too many details here, so I'm kind of dancing around a few things, but Sleepaway Camp from 1983, I believe, is my number 10. My number 9 is going to be Cabin in the Woods This is a unique horror movie where it kind of just throws all the tropes of horror on its head, or puts you on your toes. You know, you think this movie is one thing and it ends up being something else. Kind of got, you know, just like Sleepaway Camp, you know, it's a twist. I think Sleepaway Camp's twist is better, but this is a fun horror movie. You know, some kids go camping in the woods, and you know, it just plays on all these tropes of horror movies. It's very clever, and it's got a batshit crazy ending. So Cabin in the Woods, I think it came out in 2011, but I stand to be corrected. Right around that time. Cabin in the Woods is my number 9. Coming in at my number 8, it's going to be a pretty recent movie, and then it's going to be Jordan Peele's Us from 2019. I'll say it right off the bat, I do think this movie is a little bit overrated. Okay? It came out and it just, you know, went nuts with popular culture. You know, people love it, and I very much enjoy it. I think it's really well done for the first 2/3 of the movie. I think if they would have kept this story more contained instead of having it happen on a global scale, I think it would have been a lot creepier and a lot better as far as, you know, viewing experience and things like that. But they really they really make it on a global scale. Jordan Peele's really trying to send a message, and I think he succeeds in delivering his message. But I think it would have been better without that message as just a creepy little horror flick. But there's a lot of good things in the first 2/3, especially the first half of this movie. Really cool, involving doppelgangers and things like that. And there's some good scenes at the boardwalk that I really enjoy. So Us from 2019 is my number 8. Coming in at number 7 is going to be Jeepers Creepers from 2001. And no, I'm not even going to say it. I don't have to defend myself for putting this movie on my list. Of course I'm against that shit. But let's talk about the movie. This is a really good early 2000s horror movie. You know, 2 kids coming home from college, siblings actually, brother and sister coming home from college. They see some guy that ends up being called the Creeper, you know, like unloading a body in something, and they go check it out, and it's you know, in like the backwoods in the summer, and then he's kind of terrorizing them, and he's some creature that feeds like every, I can't remember, it's like 27 years or something like that. It's shockingly well done and shockingly creepy, no pun intended. So Jeepers Creepers is my number 7. All right, let's get back to the 70s here, or not back to, let's get to the 70s, and let's go with my number 6, which is going to be Piranha from 1978. Look, this is a goofy movie. It came out, you know, a few years after Jaws, which may or may not be on this list. Came out a few years after Jaws. It's Joe Dante, who did The Burbs, he did Gremlins, all kinds of movies I like. It's Joe Dante, and it is pretty hammed up. You know, there's all these killer piranhas that get released into this river during the summertime, and they're essentially munching on everyone. It's a lot of fun. It's a movie that reminds me of summer. It's a lot of fun. If you guys haven't seen Piranha from 1978, please go check that out. There's all kinds of sequels and shit, Piranha 3D, all kinds of shit. The original Piranha is a fun movie. Just go in with a open mind and just plan on having fun with it. So that is my number 6. All right, top 5, people. My number 5 is going to be another movie that is relatively recent. It's from 2018. It is called Summer of '84. Probably the most surprising movie I've seen in the last 5 years, as far as like, holy shit, this movie is good. If you guys haven't seen Summer of '84, I think it's on a streaming service. I can't remember which one. It is fucking fantastic. It involves kids. It's kind of playing on like the Stranger Things type vibe and shit like that. A kid that thinks his neighbor, there's a serial killer in the town. He thinks his neighbor, who ends up being a cop, is the serial killer. And he's kind of investigating, and it is extremely well done. And another one where the ending is like, holy fuck, they went there. Fucking love it. This movie's great. Kind of want to watch this again recently because I haven't seen it in a couple years, but it is extremely good. Summer of '84. If you haven't seen it, guys, please check it out. It is my number 5. All right, we're getting to some classics here. Number 4 for me is going to be the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre from 1974. Look, some of these movies I'm about to talk about, there's not much I can really say that hasn't already been said and that I haven't said. But when you think of summer, the sweltering fucking heat, you can feel that in this movie. So many classic images of Leatherface. Our first introduction to him, obviously. And like I said, you can just feel the Texas heat in this movie. You think you see a lot of gore, you do not. And it created a classic horror character and a classic franchise. It is extremely good and extremely crazy. So Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the OG, is my number 4. All right, number 3 is going to be relatively recent. I guess I can't even say it's recent anymore. Late 90s. And that is I Know What You Did Last Summer. Amazing cast here. This came out after the Scream craze, written by Kevin Williamson as well. I Know What You Did Last Summer. I actually think, on certain days of the week, that this movie might be better than the original Scream. The cinematography is beautiful. It's essentially a group of 4 high schoolers. The cast, Sarah Michelle Gellar, Jennifer Love Hewitt, Freddie Prinze Jr., Ryan Felipe, dude from Big Bang Theory, and Roseanne. Just a great cast. But essentially, they accidentally kill someone on their graduation night, run him over. They dump his body into the ocean, and some of them are feeling guilt about it. They come back next summer, and they get this note that says, I know what you did last summer, and the guy with the hook hand starts picking them off. It's extremely well done, and I would encourage you guys to check it out. I check it out. It's very 4th of July, because it takes place on the 4th of July. So I would check it out. I Know What You Did Last Summer is my number 3. My number 2, it's going to be Friday the 13th. Look, I could put half the franchise on here, right, as far as my personal favorites. I'm just going to say Friday the 13th, the original 1980. You could sub in 2, 3, 4 for me, and I wouldn't argue. Look, when you think of slashers, you think of Friday the 13th. When you think of summer camp, you think of Friday the 13th. What else needs to be said? I'll get this out of the way if you're still watching. I am going to continue my review series very shortly. I did Friday the 13th, the original, all the way through part 3. I'm going to start with part 4 in the near future here. I just needed a little break. So if you really want my thoughts on Friday the 13th, I did a live stream. I'd encourage you guys to go check that out. But my number 1, guys, it's fucking Jaws, man. It is Jaws. I'm planning on doing a review series for Jaws when I'm done with Friday the 13th. Or I'll take a break from Friday the 13th in the middle of July and start Jaws. I mean, Jaws is not only one of the best summer horror movies of all time, it's one of the best horror movies of all time. It is one of the best movies of all time. It created the summer blockbuster. What more needs to be said about Jaws? Like I said, I'm going to have a lot more thoughts on this. I'm going to do a little bit of a deep dive into it, so then you guys can get my detailed thoughts on this movie. But when you're making a list like this, or at least when I am, it's Jaws, and then, okay, let me figure out the rest of the list. Because nothing will ever beat Jaws. For me, it's right up there with Halloween as, my favorite movies of all time. So, like I said, comment down below. Tell me your guys' favorite summer horror movies, and I will see you guys next time.